Hello, welcome back to another episode of This and That. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make my bourbon barrel aged hot sauce. This is something that is pretty unique in my opinion. I haven't found it in any store, and I personally like bourbon and hot sauce, so I thought I would have some fun combining the two. It turned out to be really delicious. I'm going to walk you through the process here in just a few seconds. I do want to talk about the pepper makeup of this sauce though before we get into grinding them down and putting them in the barrel here and fermenting them. And that is, largely this is going to be habanero based, because I don't know if you follow the channel or not, but in a previous video I did one that was all Carolina Reaper, and that was, it's great, but it is super hot and super concentrated, and it's fine. You put a drop or two in your food and you kind of get that crazy heat. This, I wanted to bring in more of the nuanced flavor of the peppers. Habanero has some really good citrus notes in there that, you know, you'll get hot, but you're not going to get just hot. So, but not to disappoint, I still do have Carolina Reapers and Ghost Chilies that I'm going to put in on a much smaller percentage, just to kind of give it a little bit of extra punch without melting your face off, essentially. So, but the other one I wanted to talk to you about, and I don't know that you likely have not heard of it. You may have. I had not heard of it myself up until this year when I decided to grow it in my garden out back. And I hadn't seen it either. So I go to a local greenhouse that, you know, they have the plants that they start with, and they always have a pretty good selection. But this one is called Yellow King Naga. And it's a wrinkly fruit just like the Carolina Reaper and the Ghost Chili. So the wrinklier hot peppers, you know, those little tiny wrinkles in there, kind of dictate that it's going to be a hotter pepper. This is in that 800 to 1.2 million Scoville unit range. But if you were to sit the three of them down, take a bite of each, because I've done it, I honestly couldn't tell you which one's hotter in my opinion. So I do like the flavor profile of this Yellow King Naga. I think it'll add a really nice addition to the bourbon barrel aged hot sauce. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so now we're ready to go ahead and grind up the peppers. We have them, I have some here, I have more in boxes down here. I like to keep the recipe somewhat simple, and I'll put it up on the screen when I'm grinding here in a second. But I like the flavor of the peppers to kind of balance in with the vinegar and the salt. I do like garlic a lot too, so I'm going to throw garlic in there. So really it's peppers, salt, vinegar, water. The water is reverse osmosis, filtered, so it's a neutral water. I like that best because I feel like then it's not trying to impart any of its flavor into the sauce. So at the end of this, you'll have the hints of bourbon from the bourbon barrel, and this particular one is number 3 char, so it's kind of a heavy char, which I like, especially when you're using it for a sauce. So you'll get a little bit more of that wood, the elements from the oak, so like vanilla and things of that nature, into the sauce. It will have to ferment longer too, and I'll talk about fermentation here in just a little bit. A note of personal protective equipment, or PPE, right? So you always want gloves. These ones aren't as crazy as the ones that I used for the Carolina Reaper video. If you remember that, they were more of a medical grade glove. These ones are a food service glove. They actually do a pretty good job though. I bought these at Costco, a 4-pack for 12 bucks or something. And it's hard to get a hold of the medical grade gloves currently. Also though, I will be using the respirator once again, not the full face shield, but at least the one that covers my lungs, because just being around these before I've grinded them, before they've been ground down, yeah, I'm already hacking and sneezing and coughing. This stuff is gonna happen. So you really should, or well, I would suggest doing it. I will, because I just don't want to be hacking through the rest of the video. So anyway, we'll go ahead and, without further ado, we'll get going on making the sauce here, and we'll see how it goes.
El son de Cuba traigo yo, porque la fiesta ya empezó. La fiesta sigue toda la noche con este ritmo tan especial. La gente baila, la gente goza con esa música original. El son de Cuba traigo yo. Apúrense que el son llegó. El son de Cuba traigo yo, porque la fiesta ya empezó. Ya empezamos a fiestar, mamita, ven y juntos vamos a bailar. La fiesta sigue toda la noche, ven y juntos vamos a gozar. Que yo le traigo mi son. Anda, si es la verdad. Que yo le traigo mi son. yo le traigo mi son son.
Okay, so the next phase then will obviously be letting it ferment. You want to let it ferment for a while. I'm going to let it ferment probably 2 to 4 weeks at least. Some pepper companies will ferment peppers like this up to 3 years. So the fermentation process, the more you ferment it, the kind of more it will mellow out, yet still retain the heat. But you'll get that a lot of the rawness from the pepper will be gone, which is kind of nice. So that's why it's really nice to ferment it. When I add vinegar to it, it will not actually technically stop the fermentation part of it. It will slow it down significantly, and then if you were to put it in the fridge or something, it'll slow it down even more. So a lot of people think that it just completely stops the fermentation process. Now, if you were to put, since I have about 18 gallons or so, give or take, if I were to put like 25 or 30 gallons of vinegar in here, yeah, that would probably stop the fermentation process. But even if you were to kind of half equal it out, 12, 15 gallons of vinegar, you're not going to completely stop it. It will slowly ferment, but not to the point of dangerousness. So the next few days actually is when it's going to do the bulk of its fermentation. Next week or so, it'll do the bulk of its fermentation. And that's what's nice about this is I just kind of lightly set what they call the bunghole. It's what it's called. Anyway, so on top of that, and the peppers are getting to me. Air can escape from there, but also bugs can't get in there. So this will be kind of interesting to watch, and I'll get a close-up shot of the fermentation process too. So stay tuned, we'll go from there. Okay, so here we are looking at the peppers. They've been fermenting for about 3 weeks. I'm getting ready to add vinegar to them. I'll be kind of following that adage of the Tabasco sauce type process where really they use a 70-30 blend. So 70% vinegar to 30% peppers. I probably won't go quite that heavy. I'll probably be more around the 50% range. And if it needs more, I can add more. But I like a vinegary hot sauce. I think that just tastes better in my opinion. So I'll be taking a look at that. But what's interesting to look in here is that the peppers, I had to cut a bigger hole in here just so I could get my stir stick in here, my wooden spatula, in order to stir these, to make sure that these peppers kind of stayed stirred up and underneath that brine level, because if you have them above the brine level, they can start to grow mold and things like that. So I'll be stirring those here in a minute and adding in the vinegar and then giving them a taste. And I tell you, I tasted it even before, probably a week or so ago, even before I've added the vinegar. So it was just kind of the brined peppers, so to speak, and they were delicious in terms of heat and flavor profile, but they're still missing vinegar in my opinion. Vinegar just adds that extra bit of kick. So hang tight and we'll take a look at that here in just a moment. Okay, so here we are. I'm getting ready to add the vinegar to the habanero hot sauce blend. Obviously, like I said before, I have Carolina Reaper, Ghost Chili, Yellow King Naga, mostly habanero though, and I'll be adding vinegar to it right now. I just like the white distilled vinegar. I know apple cider vinegar is great as well. There's all sorts of vinegars you can add to this. But for me, this is a pretty neutral vinegar. I really don't want to impart any sweetness into the hot sauce. I like it to have salt, the bite of the vinegar, kick of the pepper, all that good stuff in there. So I'll just be adding the white vinegar in there, and we'll give it a taste after a while. Again, I have quite a bit actually in this barrel in terms of the peppers, and then the brine that you add to it as well. Just that's probably still, even after it has fermented for a few weeks and lost a decent amount of the liquid due to the fact that it gets absorbed through the barrel and whatnot into the atmosphere. But I'll bet you there's still 18 gallons or so inside of this. So I'll be adding, these are 1.3 gallons each. I have 6 of them, so there is about 8 gallons or so of that. That'll give me just under 50%. I can add more if I want, but I'll add these in here and see where I'm at. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, let's try stirring this up and see where we're at. I'm gonna pull some out and we'll take a taste and see how we're doing with this. Well, this pulp is good too, because I'll end up drying this pulp out and making like a seasoning shake from it, which will be really good. Wow, that's actually really good. Definitely vinegary. Yet you get the kick of the habanero in there, and the ghost chili, and the Carolina Reaper, and the Yellow King Naga. But the nice part is different from my other sauces. This isn't so overpowering that it's going to like knock you on your butt, but it's definitely hot. Okay, I'm gonna throw the mash back in here for now because might as well go in there and hang out with his buddies until I pull it all. But okay, so I used a pH meter on this. You really want to be under like 3.5, 3.4. So acidity level, you know, the lower the level that it reads on a pH meter, the more acidic it is. This read around 3.2, 3.3, and it was around 3.5 or so before I even added the vinegar. So this dropped it down a little bit for sure. And that ensures that there's no growth, yeast or mold or otherwise. So this certainly meets that criteria. I think the vinegar level for me is really good. The spice level is amazing. And even just pulling that little bit out, I mean, I have, gosh, many gallons of this that I won't bore you with me straining it all out and bottling it up. But even just a little bit that I pulled out, I mean, I can easily fill a couple of bottles here that I'll take into work tomorrow for some friends or whoever. But this is definitely a fun thing to do if you got the time, I guess. I don't know, or if you just like hot sauce like I do. I might sell this on my website, thisandthatonline.com. We'll see. I probably will. And I'll put the link to that website in the description down below. But right there's a couple of bottles, easy, that I can take in and just have fun with at work and let the coworkers try out and whatnot. So anyhow, geez, I'm hacking up still from these peppers, but they're really good. This is an interesting blend that turned out to be quite tasty. Again, you get the flavor of the habanero, which is what I wanted, but I wanted a little bit more of a punch. So cue the Carolina Reaper, the ghost chili, the Yellow King Naga. And this is something that you should definitely try. They have a lot of these barrels. Jeez, excuse me. They have a lot of these barrels on the cheap now, like, because I don't know if there's some regulation against it or whatever. I've seen a lot of these barrels around, but you can pick them up anywhere from 60 to 100 bucks for a barrel, and then grow peppers and throw them in there, or buy peppers, or however you want to do it. But it certainly is worth a shot. And I don't know. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please click like and subscribe, and we'll keep going. Thank you.